everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry, and we catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. And you can also contact me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. So this week we have another Twangling Jack album review special. But before we get to the album reviews, let's head over to the Rhylight Zone for the latest instalment of Monsters of Rock by myself, Dane Cobain. Chapter 7, The Nameless One, 1994. The orc wrapped a blindfold around Groen's eyes, but he let him keep his weapon. "Big axe no good," he said. "Not against a boss man." Groen thought that they'd see about that, but he stayed silent. With the blindfold on, the orc led him out of the pub and along the road. Groen tried to remember the directions they'd taken, but his head was still pounding from standing too close to the monitors, and he'd had one too many ales. Besides, he secretly suspected that the orc was walking him around in circles to make sure that he lost his bearings. For all Groen knew, he was being looped around and taken straight back to the Rose and Crown. After they'd been walking for 15 minutes or so, they stopped just as suddenly as they'd started. The orc stopped first, but Groen couldn't see and so he didn't notice. He took a couple of additional steps forward and banged face first into a heavy wooden door. He heard a fiendish cackling from behind him and cursed in Dwarfish, then spat on the floor. The orc stepped forward and rapped heavily against the door. Groen recognised it for what it was, a special signal. He also recognised it as the break from James Brown's Funky Drummer. There was a creaking sound as the door swung open, and then Groen was ushered inside. His first impression was one of warmth, particularly after coming in from the cold night air. It was nearly 1:30 in the morning, and he could hear drunken revellers passing along the street outside. Then the door was closed and he was enveloped by the warmth and the darkness. Someone took his blindfold off, and he winced as bright light sent his dilated pupils running for cover. He was in the hallway of a house, but it was far from typical. The walls were painted black and had veiny tentacles running across them, as though there was something behind the wainscoting that was trying to get out. It made the corridor seem narrower than it was, and they caught the light from the tacky chandeliers that hung down from the high ceilings. Groen squinted at them and noticed that they didn't have light bulbs. They were using black candles, and the wax was dribbling down the side of the candelabra and onto the floor, where it hardened into blobs. The floor was black too, obsidian by the look of it. "Guz would love this place," Groen murmured. "What?" It was the orc, and he was standing half a step behind Groen with his mouth uncomfortably close to the dwarf's ear. "Nothing," Groen said. "Why am I here?" "You see soon. Come on." "You're behind me," Groen said. "I don't know where I'm going." "Down the hall," the orc said. "Into the boss man's throne room." "The what room?" "Just do it." And so Groen did as he was told and meandered along the corridor and into the throne room. It clearly used to be a downstairs living room, but whoever lived there had done a pretty good job of turning it into a kitschy gothic paradise. The walls, the floors and the light fittings were the same as they were in the hallway, but the space was a little bigger and given over mostly to a gigantic throne made of skulls. Groen didn't dare look any closer to see whether they were real, or to find out what unholy magic held them together. And besides, there was someone sitting on the throne. Groen looked at him and took a sharp intake of breath. From behind him, the orc chuckled nastily and said, "This is the boss man." Dwarves aren't inherently magical, unlike elves and trolls. In many ways, they're just smaller versions of human beings, genetic first cousins with a shared common ancestor. That meant that Groen couldn't sense magic, although he could often infer its existence from the effect that it had on people. There, though, in that room and in front of that creature, he could almost taste it. Even with it seated on the throne, Groen could tell that he was looking at a behemoth. The dwarf put it at 8 feet tall and a couple 100 kilograms, although there was a lot of room for error and he wasn't the best judge, being one of the little people. The apparition seemed somehow incorporeal, as though it was the physical manifestation of some greater force, an ancient darkness of the kind that clouded men's minds and lived beneath mountains and at the bottom of the sea. It looked insubstantial and at the same time all too real. It was dressed from head to toe in smouldering black armour that leaked magma through the cracks, and it rested its left arm on the skulls while the right held the hilt of a black bastard sword. The sharp point of the blade was buried in the obsidian like a knife sticking out of a pat of butter. Groen looked into the thing's eyes and immediately regretted it. There were nothing more than 2 red pricks of light from somewhere within the depths of its horned helmet. Groen coughed politely and said, "Groen Gonadson at your service, sir." Groen stifled a laugh. "What's so funny?" "It's nothing," Groen said. "You just sound like a friend of mine. I hope you don't think it's rude of me to ask, but who exactly am I talking to?" Groen felt movement at his shoulder and glanced backwards to see that the orc had stepped away and was looking at him as though expecting him to spontaneously combust. "I am the Nameless One." "I mean," Groen murmured, "that's technically a name." "What?" "I'm just saying," the dwarf continued. "It's like when you describe something as indescribable." Fun fact, Groen didn't get his hair cut often, but when he did, he went to a little Turkish barber that claimed to specialise in all types of hair. "What are you talking about?" "Never mind," Groen said. "How can I help you?" "I want you to go on a quest for me." Groen said, "And why should I do that?" "Because I could crush your spine into dust with a single command in the ancient language of Qatar," the Nameless One said. "Because I could summon the dread legions and have you torn apart by the horses of the apocalypse. Because I hold your present and your future in the palm of my hand, and your mortal life means less to me than the lives of the ants that flee before me and scuttle between the cracks in the pavements." "Oh, I see," Groen replied. "You should have said." "Complete this task for me and you will be rewarded." "Aye," Groen said. "And how would that be? What kind of reward are we talking about?" The Nameless One chuckled. It was a harsh, rasping sound, like the sound of a manhole cover being removed from its metal grating. The orc was trying so hard to get away from Groen that it looked like he was going to pass through the wall. "You haven't asked me what I do for a living, Mr. Gonadson." "It didn't occur to me," Groen admitted. "What's your line of work?" The figure on the throne stood up abruptly, and Groen's guess at its height was proved correct. It was so tall that the horns on its helmet brushed off the ceiling, which looked unnecessarily tall from Groen's point of view. It withdrew its sword from the obsidian and hefted it thoughtfully. "I'm a record company executive," the Nameless One said. "What, did you think I was born evil? I was made evil." After that revelation, Groen Gonadson didn't have much of a choice. But the Nameless One wasn't one for striking deals, and so he left with no concrete understanding of what he'd actually be getting in exchange for completing the Dark Lord's quest. As for the quest itself, it sounded like a suicide mission, but that's exactly the kind of quest that an ambitious dwarf likes to get his teeth stuck into. "You will go to the Welsh valleys," the Nameless One explained. "My orcs will provide you with a map and detailed directions. You're looking for a little place just off the M50. You can't miss it. Once there, you must seek and kill the great dragon Cerise. Bring me her head and then we'll talk." "A dragon?" Groen murmured. "A Welsh one at that." "Do we have a deal, Mr. Gonadson?" "I'll need some help," Groen said. The Nameless One laughed again, and it sounded even harsher, more rasping and metallic. "You'll get by," the Nameless One said, "with a little help from your friends." That was the latest installment of Monsters of Rock by myself, Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and this is Straight 8 with New Orleans.
Come on, everybody take a trip with me, yeah. Down to Mississippi, down to New Orleans. Honeysuckle growing on the honeysuckle vine now. Good love just oozing there all the time. Every southern man is a Mississippi queen. Down to Mississippi, down to New Orleans. A decent man to be. Oh, to the blossom is in the air. You ain't been to heaven if you ain't been there. Got bagels hanging from the bagel tree. Down to Mississippi, down to New Orleans. Come on.
That was Make Believe by Harry Quinn, and before that we had New Orleans by Straight 8. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and it is time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album reviews.
It's a Beautiful Day by It's a Beautiful Day. I got this LP in a 4 for a tenner deal at the Wickham Arts Centre vinyl sale. If this album is famous for anything, it is probably for the front cover picture, which has this really weird spooky quality. It is just a picture of a young girl in a white dress and bonnet against a slightly cloudy sky. And you can imagine they chose it because it looks like a beautiful day. But it sort of looks like a beautiful day in hell. The album is also well known because it contains It's a Beautiful Day's best known song, White Bird, which is a song I remember hearing on the radio when I was a kid. It is catchy but also classy in a folky, jazzy kind of way. The male and female singers sing a bit like Grace Slick and Marty Balin in Jefferson Airplane. The lead instrument in It's a Beautiful Day is a violin, which makes a change from all the guitar solos of the late 60s, even though I do like a good guitar solo. I've always been intrigued to hear this album. I once saw the CD in a charity shop, but it was not cheap, and even so I regretted not buying it, if only for the long full-length version of White Bird. I was shocked by track 1, side 2, which sounds exactly like the intro to Deep Purple's Child in Time. It has the same chords and exactly the same melody that John Lord played on his Hammond organ. I did some research and Deep Purple admitted that they stole it. Apparently they were just jamming and they started jamming this song and they liked it, so they kept it. It was much in the same way that they stole the bass line from Ricky Nelson's Summertime for the riff to Black Knight. It seems that It's a Beautiful Day were not actually that worried, and what they did to counter this was copy a Deep Purple instrumental called Ring That Neck, rename it, and put it on their next album. This album is very hippie trippy late 60s psychedelia. There is a sweet catchy waltz called The Girl With No Eyes that has harpsichord and drug references. But it is the violin of David LaFlamme and the singing of LaFlamme and Patti Santos that are the main features. LaFlamme is also the songwriter. There are fairly recent YouTube clips of him, and I think he still goes under the name of It's a Beautiful Day. Having heard White Bird for most of my life, but nothing else by this band, I found the album to be surprisingly varied. In places it is dreamy, but in other places it is quite frantic. There is even a drum solo that did not bore me. It promotes hippie philosophy, lots of love and peace, and there is an astute observation on the way that time passes at different rates depending on your state of mind. The singing can get a bit histrionic. In places it sounds a bit like the musical Hair, or even Jesus Christ Superstar. It's a Beautiful Day by It's a Beautiful Day. Radiohead, Kid A. Radiohead are my Marmite. I do like Marmite, but I have periods where I eat it all the time and much longer periods when I never touch it. This is mostly because of Tom York's singing, which I can have enough of. I recently bought both Smile albums and I went back to the last 3 Radiohead albums, and there is always songs I really love, and there are also songs that sound like the ones I love, but for some reason I can't get into them. I bought Radiohead's OK Computer almost on a whim. I was minicabbing and I took 5 minutes off to buy a cassette to play in the car. That night I had a long drive back into town and I played the cassette. I remember it well because that night there was a meteor shower. It was one of those perfect storms. I played that album all the time, and then I caught up with their past works, the 2 albums and some EPs and singles. I even had to have the song from Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. Then I waited for something new. It was like the wait we had between Led Zepp 3 and 4, and my anticipation was just as great. Eventually we got Kid A and I found it interesting, and very good in places. I played it a lot but never truly got it, and soon after that Radiohead released Amnesiac, which was a bit more rocky and had the Pyramid song, which is one of my all-time favourite Radiohead songs. After Amnesiac we had Hail to the Thief, which had some good songs, including the one where they all beat tom-toms. I bought the Pay As Much As You Like download of In Rainbows, and then after that I sort of lost interest. But I have noticed there are people who rate Kid A even above OK Computer. I like songs. I am most impressed when I hear a song that sounds like it might have existed long before it was actually recorded. Songs like Fake Plastic Trees on the Bends, and No Surprises and Karma Police on OK Computer. But Kid A is not really about songs. There are memorable hooks with catchy melodies. You will certainly find yourself singing along with everything in its right place and being moved by How to Disappear Completely. But you will not find any verse, chorus, bridge, solo structures, but just the repetition of the title or other key lines that put across the sentiment. Like, I'm not here, this isn't happening, in How to Disappear Completely. Mostly the album is about texture and mood. There are definite elements of space rock and krautrock, Can and Hawkwind, or Tangerine Dream. The national anthem has a driving bass that reminds me of Jar Wobble in Public Image, and a brass section like Tom Waits' Swordfish Trombones period. But mostly it is all about the synth sounds and sampled noises. The drums are either drum machine or played like drum machines, and the singing sits above a soundscape of whooshing noises. There are limited chord changes, and often that can mean less is more, in that you really do notice the change. And on songs like Morning Bell, the melody moves with the change in an immensely pleasing fashion. Morning Bell was always my favourite. Just before Kid A came out, we moved to a place with no parking, and I would often lose my car in one of the nearby streets. Morning Bell has the line, "Where'd you park the car?" All these years later, that line still replays in my head when I reach for my car keys, even if I am sure where it is parked. The other thing that initially got me interested in this album was their use of a primitive synthesizer called the Ond Martino. This led to me discovering the Tarangalila Symphony by Olivier Messiaen, which was the album recommendation I recently chose as my favourite. Kid A, Radiohead. The Doors, LA Woman. The Doors with Jim Morrison made 6 studio albums, and it is often believed that the first one was the best. And then there was a fall off in quality till the 5th one, which saw a return to form, which culminated in this one, where they had definitely returned to form. The most famous song on this album is Riders on the Storm, which is a slow, moody blues song with a sultry Twilight Zone feel and a memorable lyric and one of their biggest worldwide hits. I don't remember having heard of The Doors till the day Jim Morrison died, though I did recognise some of the songs. But Riders on the Storm and other tracks from this album were everywhere after he died. The album kicks off with a danceable chunk of heavy Stax style psychedelic soul, with a Booker T type organ and an Aretha Franklin type gospel coda. Then we get a light upbeat classic Doors commercial pop song, then some moody Chicago blues with slide guitar. Everything is played with the effortless tightness of musicians who have been playing together for years, yet it does not sound at all tired. It just has a great feel, making it all the more sad that it was the last. The song LA Woman grooves along, ramping for long periods on one chord. It changes speed and direction like it is motoring on desert highways. Jim Morrison almost raps, with call and responses like a drill sergeant, but every now and then a guitar solo or some keyboards shoot past like a supercharged drag racer, disappearing off into the vanishing point. There is L'America, which has a spooky strangeness that the Doors were keen on. There are references to classical music, there is a piece of Chopin that appears as an organ solo, which I heard Ray Manzarek say was part of his Polish heritage coming out. And there is the WASP Texas radio with the big beat. I used to think that WASP was just about Morrison's stoned immaculate rock poetry, but it is actually a very musically interesting group effort, as is the whole album, The Doors' LA Woman.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. We have got a Twangling Jack Ford album review special, and this is Peter Crutchfield with I Wish You'd Told Me More.
You'd started work as a bank clerk when the clouds of war appeared. You went to fight, thought that was right. You volunteered, you can't have feared what was to come. I'll never know what you saw. You see, I never went to war. I've got your medals in my drawer. I just wish you'd told me more. Put on a ship to distant lands. You fought in fields and on desert sands. First on the beach at Anzio. You had no choice, you had to go, you couldn't say no. I'll never know what you saw. You see, I never went to war. I've got your medals in my drawer. I just wish you'd told me more. What's it like to fire a gun, to be shot at or to shoot someone, to hear friends' cries, to see friends die, to wonder when you'll be home again. I'll never know what you saw. You see, I never went to war. I've got your medals in my drawer. I just wish you'd told me more. You got demobbed, went back to your job, working in a bank. No more mortar shells, no more cordite smells. Just checks to exchange, paper to rearrange. Such a change. I'll never know what you saw. You see, I never went to war. I've got your medals in my drawer. I just wish you'd told me more. The respects you paid on Remembrance Day to the ones you left behind. Time to reflect, thoughts to recollect. You showed your pride, but kept so much deep inside. I'll never know what you saw. You see, I never went to war. I've got your medals in my drawer. I just wish you told me more.
That was I Wish You'd Told Me More by Peter Crutchfield. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head back over to the Oak Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for some more of this week's album reviews.
The Velvet Underground, Loaded. The Velvet Underground were asked by their record company to make something more commercial, and surprisingly they did exactly what they were told, which is not the behaviour you would have expected from Lou Reed, their leader and chief songwriter. I remember hearing their single Sweet Jane on the radio. It must have been 1970 or 71, and since then it has been top of my list of favourite songs. There is a part of Sweet Jane that was edited out of the album and single versions, just as some of the other songs on the original album were edited to make them more commercial. So I have the CD version of the original album, which I found in a charity shop. But I also have a double CD version, which has the full versions of the edited songs. I never actually owned the LP of Loaded when I was young, but I found the budget album live at Max's Kansas City in a second-hand record shop. Live at Max's Kansas City has the full version of Sweet Jane, played by almost the same band that played on this album. On that album I only ever played Sweet Jane and Waiting for the Man, as most of the album sounded like they had been told to keep the noise down so that people could talk. The Loaded album has that same sound. The guitar amps are all set well below the distortion threshold. But though I think it makes the production sound weak, it may well have been an artistic choice to buck the trend of the heavy music that was becoming popular in 1970. Sweet Jane was the first song I ever learnt from a record, and I still play it at jams. There is another great version of Sweet Jane on Lou Reed's Rock and Roll Animal, and there are numerous covers, most notably the Bowie-produced Mott the Hoople version. Loaded also has the song Rock and Roll, which is another Lou Reed classic. It is a song about finding meaning to life by listening to a rock and roll radio station. There are two tracks which have a typical Lou Reed melodic slow burn build-up. There is New Age, which builds up to a climax, which is disappointingly short on the edited version, and Oh Sweet Nothing, which is a song that builds up to quite a long guitar solo, which is almost like a Velvet Underground version of Freebird. And the solo is possibly a bit too long, and maybe if they'd cut it, they could have put the full versions of the other songs on. The album starts with Who Loves the Sun, a song so light and catchy you might be inclined to think it is a parody. Lou Reed was not able to sing all the songs, so some were sung by the bass player, who gives them none of that Lou Reed iconic drawl, but sings them totally straight. The third to last song, I Found a Reason, is also implausibly sunshine pop, and it even has a spoken bit. It is like a slightly more ragged Everly Brothers. The playing on this album has that kind of not quite right, not quite tight feel that I so prefer to the auto-tune click-track music of the new century. There is even a country-ish song called Lonesome Cowboy Bill, but there is nothing avant-garde, nothing like the sonic assault of Sister Ray. There are two tracks that do sound a bit like earlier Velvet Underground. There is Train Round the Bend, which is simple and repetitive, and Cool It Down, which is repetitive but is also quite catchy. Velvet Underground, Loaded. Loudon Wainwright III, his self-titled first album. In the early 70s, the music press had a thing about declaring the new Dylan. Springsteen was one, and a number have been forgotten, but one of them was Loudon Wainwright III. He had a hit single in America with the song called Dead Skunk that did get some play on UK radio. He also had a song called Down Drinking in the Bar that got a lot of plays, and that was apparently about his friendship with his childhood friend Liza Minnelli. I had an Atlantic Records budget sampler LP that I bought for a Led Zeppelin song, but I was amazed at how much I liked the Loudon Wainwright track Motel Blues, which is a simple acoustic song. And even though I bought the album looking for heavy rock. Motel Blues was both very sad and also quite amusing, which is pretty much Loudon Wainwright's style. Until I found this LP for £1.50 in Collector's Paradise, I had never actually owned any Loudon Wainwright III albums. Collector's Paradise is a shop in Chesham where the most collectible LPs can be as much as £100. So I was quite pleased to find this one. Back in the 70s I recorded Loudon Wainwright's BBC in concert programme, and I played that cassette a lot. My favourite song of his was always Unrequited to the Nth Degree. I lost the cassette, but I was reminded of the song when he performed it in character on the TV show MASH. A friend lent me the LP that it is on, but it is a live recording with a lot of messing about. Even so, I still manage to learn it, and I often perform it, though with a lot less messing about. This album almost certainly sounds better for being on vinyl. It is just voice and acoustic guitar, but the guitar has a big sound which compensates for Wainwright's high, thin, reedy voice. It is like a cross between Dylan and Neil Young, and he's certainly not everyone's cup of tea. Every song seems to have a different strum or picking pattern, unlike the Neil Young songs of the time, which all seem to have that dung chung chung dugga dugga dung chung pattern. Like Paul Simon's songs such as Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, his solo playing can actually rock. The guitar playing is not gently picked or lightly strummed, it is aggressively attacked. Where he may sing a bit like Neil Young, the guitar can sound more like Stephen Stills on Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. I actually like the singing, but even if I did not, I would still like the songs, which are pithy observations with memorable lyrics and tunes. He is proof that Americans do get irony. His song Glad to See You've Got Religion is comparable to Dylan's With God on Our Side, but less vicious and more playful. It has lines like, I'm glad to know your psychic power is being put to good use, and glad to know that you don't discharge a drop of your procreatic juice. It was a time when a guy could go into a studio with just the guitar, an unconventional singing voice that allowed you to hear every word, a strange muted trumpet impression, no backing vocals, click track or pitch correct, and you could make an LP that was released on the same label as Led Zeppelin. Loudon Wainwright III is also famous for his love-hate relationship with his singer-songwriter son Rufus and his daughter Martha. And apparently he also lived in West Hampstead for a while. My friend who lives in West Hampstead said he saw him. Loudon Wainwright III. Oh, What a Lovely War. This is a soundtrack LP that I got for £1 at the Wickham Arts Centre vinyl sale. It is a soundtrack to the Richard Attenborough film Oh, What a Lovely War, which was based on a musical stage play originally staged at the Theatre Royal in Stratford East and then at the Wyndham's Theatre in the West End, and was produced by Joan Littlewood. The soundtrack is a musical arrangement by Arthur Ralston of songs sung in the trenches of the First World War and some versions of popular songs from the time. Songs like Pack Up Your Troubles, Keep the Home Fires Burning, and of course Silent Night, which came from the powerful Christmas football match scene. I think Oh What a Lovely War is a very effective satire. I have seen the film a few times and it never fails to move me. This is why I felt I had to buy the LP, even though I may never play it. It is good just to have the cover with the famous picture of Lord Kitchener, and with panels showing soldiers at war and panels showing rich people socialising. And there is a panel of two officers playing leapfrog, one of the most memorable scenes in the film. The film avoids realism. I think there are versions of the play that are performed by clowns, but in the film actors wear uniforms, though the whole thing is set on and around Brighton Pier. It sets up the cause of the war as a musical routine involving the kings, queens and archdukes of Europe, and it shows the volunteers being recruited by a music hall songstress urging the young men to take the king's shilling with the promise of a kiss. The horrendous number of casualties are shown on a big scoreboard. Cavalry ride on a carousel, and people don't die but they are given flowers. It follows the Smith family of brothers who all get killed. At the end of the film, as we see the armistice being signed, the last of the Smith brothers is shot, and we see what could be blood, but it's actually a poppy. Then we see him stumble through the battlefield and the signing ceremony, and then he lies on a hillside with his brothers, as the shot pulls away to reveal rows and rows of crosses. I first saw the film when it was shown to our whole school. Our teacher warned us not to make fun of the members of staff who would leave before the end. I was 13 or 14 at the time, and I was probably only slightly moved, but now I totally get it. Oh, what a lovely war. King Crimson, Red. The first version of King Crimson hit the road running with the opening number on their first album, 21st Century Schizoid Man, and everything was downhill after that. The great Mellotron monster track that is The Court of the Crimson King is worth a mention, and some of the tracks on the following 3 albums were quite good, but they had numerous personnel changes, and nothing had the impact of that first song on that first album. That band split, and a few years later Robert Fripp, the guitarist and Mellotron player, who was basically King Crimson, put together another lineup that stayed together for 3 very good albums. The first of these albums is almost as good as the third, and the second has one of my favourite King Crimson songs on it, The Great Deceiver, which was the only track from any of these albums that I remember hearing on the radio at the time. But it is the third album, Red, that is probably their best. It sounds like nothing else. Robert Fripp has the perfect distorted guitar sound, a sound that apparently inspired Kurt Cobain. He plays interesting, brutal melodies, and the kind of breaking glass arpeggios that would influence all kinds of post-punks. Yet it is easy to listen to without ever being easy listening. There is one conventional song, it is called Fallen Angel, and it has a memorable tune, though the lyric does seem to me to be a bit like a schoolboy poetry assignment. There has to be a totally improvised track, and that seems to be a King Crimson rule. But even the improvised track works well in context. It may sound like a battle between distorted bass and electric guitar set amongst a pots and pans fight, but it serves as a contrast for the final, almost totally orchestrated track. The final track, Starless, is quite magnificent. A 1970s prog rock high point, a melody that develops like a classical piece. It has passages of Mellotron strings and sustained guitar, followed by sung passages. It is all taken at a gentle pace, and occasionally it gives way to frantic bass guitar and sax rock-outs. It reaches an immensely satisfying climax. Red, King Crimson.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album reviews. You're listening to The Arts Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is the Sepia Tone Folk Collective with Help You Out.
Baby, let me help you out. Darling, if you need me, just sing and shout, and I'll be there, just pick up the phone. Don't wanna think that you're on your own, so if you think that you need some company, don't be scared to come reach out to me. Don't hide away if you're feeling lonely. It's okay, oh baby, let me help you out. Baby, let me take you out. Give me the benefit of the doubt, and I'll be there, we can hit the town. I'll make you laugh if you're feeling down. If you think that you need to give your mind a rest, have a chat and get things it's for the best and it's okay. Oh baby, let me take you out. Baby, let me make you smile. I can see it's been quite a while since you were free, so put on your shoes. We'll take a walk and talk about your blues. And I know about the pain that you've been through, the rage and disdain, I see it too. But please let me explain something to you. You'll be okay. Baby, let me make you smile. So tell me what you need from me. Tell me the guy you want me to be, and I'll be there, just say the word. I want to help, but I haven't heard. So if you think that you maybe want some space, or perhaps you need a friendly face to get your head back to your happy place, that's okay. Tell me what you need from me. If I cross the line, when we're together I forget the time. We're just the same like 2 in 1. They say time flies when you're having fun. Baby, you were lost and it was me who found you. And although this advice may astound you, just think about the people that you keep around you and you'll be okay. Tell me if I cross the line.
Is life all about choices?
was Broken Reality by Umar Ara, and before that we had Help You Out by the Sepia Tone Folk Collective. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is usually the point of the show at which we would head over to the Ilk Shed to get some album reviews from Twangling Jack Ford, but obviously we've had an album review special. So instead I'm going to reiterate the usual, so do feel free to find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. We are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights or on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. You can also reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain @wickhamsound.org.uk. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune, and this is the incredible Dog Ole with Doc Cotton. I'll catch you next week.
Serious music.
She's a matriarch with the red streaked hair, best service washing Albert Square. In the laundrette nearly every day, exclaims I shop with an
I say.
Friend of Jesus, don't you know, always got a fag on the go. Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc! Now Dot's been out for nearly all her life, and most of that's been trouble and strife. She outlived husbands Charlie and Jim and her son Nick.
We don't like him.
If you smile at her, she might not smile back, cause it's hard to be happy when you say
I say.
Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc!
Blimey. Musician.
In 2884 episodes, Dot's a legend, she taught us loads. When your back's against the wall, stand proud in a blue checked overall. Dot can handle anything with a teacup of sherry and a super king. Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton! Doc Cotton!